I never stopped thinking about speakers. I've been told I dream about speakers. I don't call out girlfriends' names, I call out speakers in my sleep.
I just want to begin, Andrew Jones, and thank you for joining us at Audio Grade to talk a bit about yourself, your career, MoFi, and the SourcePoint V10 Master Edition in particular. But let's talk about you, okay? Let's talk about your career so far, what got you into hi-fi, and the journey you've been on through the brands you've worked with.
So, from a very early age, interested in hi-fi, electronics and then hi-fi. So, took that to study physics at university, and through that process, met Laurie Fincham at KEF. And that's ultimately my first job in hi-fi. It was that opportunity to join KEF that became my speaker university. And couldn't have got to where I am now without that as a start. And then after KEF, move across the pond and go and work for the Harman Group for Infinity. And then I got invited to join Pioneer and do lots of different kind of designs. But within Pioneer, they had the brand TAD, which was professional. And I took that into the home audio market with the original TAD Model 1 and now Reference 1 and all that series. And then MoFi came calling, and it's soon going to be 5 years. It's been tremendous. Wow, the time's flown by, but having great fun with MoFi. Different ideas fascinate me. So whenever I get an opportunity to try and do something different, that's what feeds me. I just love creating and seeing those creations come to life.
And that leads to the SourcePoint V10 Master Edition, which, what a speaker. And it's not just a bigger speaker with bigger drive units. You also went from 3 8-inch cones to 5 with 2 passive bass radiators on the rear that not many speaker manufacturers would even attempt that. What a clever design. What led you to that?
So the impetus for doing that, I'd got these 2 cabinets in, and I thought, okay, we'll set the 10-inch to the side. When I finally got to putting the drivers in, I realised I needed extra volume for 2 reasons. Extra volume always helps in terms of being able to design to a higher efficiency or more extended bass. But also, I'd built them to be vents in the back, just like with the 888. This was going to be 3 10-inch drivers and vents at the back. But because you got more area, you're driving more air from those bigger drivers through a small vent. So at some point, it will choke and chuff. So, what if I use passive radiators? Okay, so I'm not going to put them on the front. I've already filled up the front with drivers. So it's got to go on the back. How many? And I thought, well, I really want 1 passive per driver. You just decide what is my design parameter? How much bass do I want to get out of this combination? And can I do it with just 2 10-inch passives on the back? And I mapped all that out and I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. And then it fits nicely. I can use the same cone and a modification to the suspension. And it all fits in nicely. So if it was SourcePoint 10-10-10, which, yeah, that would be obvious. But I always say to people, it sounds a bit like Rin Tin Tin, the cartoon, French cartoon from the old days. But now would it have to be SourcePoint 10-10-10-10-10? That's silly. And one of our guys came up with V10. And so that worked nicely, and especially in the States with V10 engines, Dodge Viper.
Yeah.
Americana, big cars, big displacement. It seemed a very good name to use. So
it's great. And it's accurate as well. It's accurate. And I was wondering how you did that and how you put the passives on the back. I thought was just a very clever trick to also make sure a speaker of that size, because you talked about US markets, obviously houses are generally bigger where you are. We're in the UK. Given the extra control that passive radiator has, is this still a high-end speaker that you think would work in most domestic settings?
Yes, I've used them in relatively small spaces. Yeah, obviously you're going to have trouble with room modes with any big speaker that goes down very low. the advantage of speakers that don't produce bass is you try and let the room do it.
The AAA, I haven't heard the V10 yet. I can't wait until I do. What it does do is it removes the need for supplementary subwoofers in a two-channel system.
Yes.
You're essentially building, and you're putting tuned subwoofers that are matched to that mid-range and tweeter within a speaker that you're not trying to match yourself because it's all within one unit. You did that with the AAA. The V10 looks to do that in an even more sophisticated and voluminous way. That's quite different. That's sort of acknowledging that shift and saying, okay, let's embrace this.
I always like to think that subwoofers are our trick on the audiophile as speaker designers. So if you can make the main speaker go down low enough, but also have enough output capability, then really that's the ultimate. And that's what the V10 does. And it's 4 10-inch drivers. That's the equivalent of nearly an 18-inch, certainly more than a 15-inch woofer. So it has a lot of bass output capability. Now, some home theatre enthusiasts would, but I need more. Okay, have more. But for most, large percentage of people, it's got an incredible amount of bass output capability.
I can't wait to hear it. Having heard the AAA and what it did in this room, thinking about the V10 and what that will do is, I think it'll be a bit of a game changer for probably the UK market and just accepting, actually, let's embrace what we want to do with low frequencies, and big cabinets are now much more acceptable than they were. I think it's going to be a revolutionary design. Where do you go next?
I think this is enough for this range of speakers. And we kind of, in a way, said it's the top of the line because we call it Master Edition.
Yes.
Not because, the best turntable we make is the Master Deck, phono preamp is the Master Phono, so let's call this Master Edition speaker. And in doing that, I thought, so the components and the crossovers I've been using, like for the 888, can I do better? Upgrade the component quality. I changed every inductor but one to air core, so there's no possibility of saturation. And then make sure change from wire wound to metal film resistors. It's got a range of adjustment to try and compensate for some of the higher end characteristics of the room. So having done all that, we decided, let's update the original SourcePoint then, because I started its design over 4 years ago, and let's apply what I've done with the crossover components to making an update to SourcePoint 10. So there's now SourcePoint 10 ME Master Edition.
Yes, I saw that with the upgraded crossover board.
Yes, and I made it retrofittable.
Yes.
So that you can just do it yourself.
Wow.
With some care.
Wow, I mean, it's been such a pleasure to talk about MoFi's journey, your journey, but this speaker in particular, is in anticipation of hearing it myself.
My pleasure. I love talking about myself.